Hi there, you are listening to the Guitar Speak podcast. My name is Matt Wakeling, and this is the show that I produce in Sydney, Australia, where I speak to leading guitarists and guitar figures from all around the world. Thank you so much for joining me. Now today I speak to Sydney guitarist, composer and academic Joseph Tabua. Joseph is an amazing musician. His influences include conventional rock players alongside aleatoric and avant-garde guitar players and musicians from a broader perspective from that matter. We discuss his guitar approach, starting from rock jams with an embryonic Silverchair to the spontaneous and visceral improvisation of the Tabua-Harrison duo, championed no less by Living Colour's Vernon and Reid. There's a very cool story about that in the interview. We also look at Joseph's solo album, Half Ocean, Half Sky. We take a look at Joseph's academic work. Currently, he's completing a doctorate at Western Sydney University, where he studied music. That's where I went as well, so we share a few stories from that. We look at his gear choices for sonic exploration, and we end up with a fantastic list of boundary-stretching guitar players and musicians to check out. In fact, we've created a Spotify playlist, so in the show notes, you'll find a link to that. Now, during the interview, Joseph mentions another Guitar Speak podcast alumni member, Chris Brooks, who's a fantastic guitarist and teacher in his own right. And I've included a link to some of Chris's most recent teaching materials through his Patreon page. I'm checking some of that stuff out myself and finding it really beneficial. So check those resources out as well. All right, let's jump straight into our interview. Joseph Tabua, welcome to the Guitar Speak podcast.
Thanks, Matt. It's lovely to be here with you.
Yeah, great to finally connect.
Yes.
Now, your career as a musician is so varied, which I find super exciting, but can we go back to the start? When did you start playing music, and were you brought up with music in your family?
I sort of started playing in bands in 1993, just right at the end of high school. When I say bands, it was kind of like, mainly just doing covers and stuff, lunchtime, any sort of excuse to sort of, experiment in the music room or even the instrumental storeroom.
Yeah.
But the other answer to that question as well, no, there's no one musical in my family, which is I was a bit of a strange thing, telling your folks that, hey, I'm very passionate about music, and I think they had other ideas, but I've had a bit of an interesting journey, or I've done a couple of different things, and it's really funny. And now I've kind of I've ended up doing my doctorate now, which is much later in life, because I met my partner 10 years ago. We got married not long after that, and she said, you should go back and do some study, like you've always wanted to, and here I am,
yeah, cool.
Hey, yeah.
Very nice. What was the stuff that turned you onto guitar?
Oh wow. The stuff that turned me onto the guitar, it might sound not as exciting as the stuff that I sort of discovered later on. But being honest, it was guys like Ian Moss, Kirk Pengelly from INXS,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And from U2. That really, just listening to, obviously there was an excitement, and I'm obviously back in that period too. There was a lot of times where, because I taught myself how to play guitar. Guitar wasn't my first instrument. In fact, it was a tenor saxophone.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I think I sort of gravitated towards Kirk Pengelly from INXS, because he played, the two instruments.
He's doing both. Yeah, cool.
The guitar and sax, and then I was kind of torn because I used to play in like a concert band and jazz band in high school, and I was very serious about playing the saxophone, and then it's just funny, sometimes you're meant to play an instrument, but I think I still kind of approach, or have been, uh, sort of handling the guitar almost like a horn, or it's kind of like the way that I think about um, sounds, sonically, I guess. But I'm starting to, as I'm still growing as well as a practitioner, I'm still learning. I love learning about theory, and obviously I get excited by watching other guitarists, or even other musicians, like on wonderful platforms like Instagram, for instance, and YouTube. It's incredible. But that's some kind of that was the stuff that kind of got me interested. Really, was guys like Ian Moss, especially that Matchbook album.
Okay,
That was
yeah, yeah.
incredible. It was kind of the first time where I was able to really learn. Well, I think I could was was able to play by ear, and that's when I sort of discovered that, oh wow, I can do this. And then not long after that, I sort of obviously getting into what was playing at the time, which was a lot of U2, In Excess, my goodness, and oh geez, I started taking in much more of an interest in like the blues guys, especially in that period. I like Eric Clapton, for instance. Like I used to, my goodness, I think I'd wore out this VHS tape I had of his from it was the Four Faces of Eric Clapton at the Royal Albert Hall,
Oh, yeah, wow.
pausing the videos just to get the shapes of his fingers on the fretboard. And I still get a little bit sentimental when I do come across it. Like I have it on DVD now, but yeah, that's when I kind of knew, like, hey, this is the instrument for me, and yeah, and I'm still learning, I'm still learning. There's so many wonderful musicians, that it's just, yeah, that's a beauty of the instrument as well. Just, man, there's just so much that the instrument, it pulls out of you. But my goodness, when you see somebody, even though it's the tradition is, you know, there's always somebody that just comes up every now and again that just the way that they attack something or approach. And I think it's very exciting.
Very cool. But by the time you're playing in that band Junto, I gather that's not long after high school, if I've got my timeline right. You seem to be mixing a lot of straight ahead rock, but also some very atmospheric, very trippy stuff as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah. With Junto, well, previously before Junto, I should mention, I used to play in a terrific band, and these were guys from high school. We were originally called the Colored Bodies, just chromosomes, because we got the name from biology one day, and then just after school, we changed the name of the band to Taboo. And it's not many people know this, but unless you've, obviously friends. We went into a wonderful competition they used to have at Campsie called Youth Rock in 1994, and we got through all the heats. We got to the final, and it's funny, we actually finished second, and the band that came first were this. You may have heard of them. They were called the Innocent Criminals from
Oh
Newcastle,
yeah, of course. Who became
and they became obviously Silverchair.
yes, yeah, wow.
Yeah, it was very exciting. It was very exciting, and we kind of knew, well, there was obviously something brewing already. I remember at the time of the competition, and but it was also, um, yeah, it was also exciting to see because we actually got to jam with them afterwards. When all the awards were handed out, and I think we did a cover, well, we did a version of Pearl Jam Animal or something,
Okay,
just
yep.
to sort of end the night. And it was just funny, just yeah. Well, we got obviously they got signed very quickly.
Hmm.
Um, what was it? Was it Epic or Sony? We didn't get a deal straight away, but we got a lot of interest, and we got a lot of. We managed to get some time in EMI studios at 301 Castlereagh Street
Yeah,
there,
wow, very cool.
and we recorded. a demo there, which was really exciting. Um, geez, and that was that was very exciting because I remember it was the first time I'd ever been in a real recording studio
Mm-hmm.
and seeing all the, geez, these Duran Duran gold records
Yeah, wow. Yes.
and I remember even just coming down or coming up from the elevator, and out we saw these two guys, and they looked strangely familiar. And then my bass player Mark at the time says, "Do you know who that was?" Says, "That was the guys from Skunk Hour."
Wow.
It's like it just yeah, it was just so exciting,
Yeah. I mean, they were
just
massive
being
right then as well. They were at the
oh
peak right then.
they were very big at that time. And
Yeah.
and anyway, that band Taboo, we were kind of we were sort of like a not rage, but maybe like a funk rock
Yeah.
metal type sort of thing. And it's funny, we kind of we sound very similar to Rage Against the Machine's second album, Evil Empire. And not to sound, like I'm boasting or anything, but I remember just sort of just trying to stretch the instrument, the guitar. And when I say what I mean is, through extended techniques. And I remember I used to pull out the plug and pull out the guitar lead. I'd put that on the, on the guitar. I'd put it on the microphone. And I remember just seeing one morning, Saturday morning, and then there's this guy outside. The video was them at oh gosh, it was a big day out Sydney,
Yeah.
and Bulls on Parade. I was like, whoa, it was. I'd heard of Rage Against the Machine, but I wasn't that that schooled until I heard that album, and then I kind of obviously went back, and
Okay.
now I've been a massive fan, huge fan.
So you were already like a sonic experimenter, even way back.
I think so. Yeah.
What triggered that?
Um, I think it was, there was a few things, a few reasons. One, because I was very naive, um, very young, naive. I wasn't scared to try things, but I also, um, obviously you want to try and do things that kind of hasn't been done, but you don't know this stuff until, you get to go to perhaps university, or you get a mentor that kind of explains these things to you, or opens your mind to these possibilities.
Yeah.
And but I think it's definitely my approach as a horn player. I as more than anything, I don't really listen to or that much guitar oriented music, or not until later. I'd say the last 6 years.
Okay.
I was kind of really gone in, and I was having a bit of about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I had a bit of a, what do you call, I just needed a bit of encouragement, or just to get some. I was in a bit of a rut, like musically, or so I thought I was. And then I got in touch with a very old friend of mine. It's funny. I knew this guy. His name's Chris Brooks. You may have heard of him.
Yeah. He's been on the show actually.
Of Brett Garsted. Oh, you've met him? Yeah. Terrific guy.
Amazing.
And I used to. Oh, amazing musician, amazing person, just a lovely guy. And I've kind of known him even since I was a teenager, through when I used to visit a music shop that he used to work at in Maryland. So anyway, and then I sort of got in touch with him and said, look, I'm in a bit of a rut. I think I just with I need flow, or for soloing, and it's especially hard too, because when I say it's hard playing in a duo, I'm kind of like left. I'm exposed, so exposed, and I try and avoid the obvious, and I felt like I was still sort of messing about too much with, minor pentatonic shapes and, these sort of ideas. But, when I spent about a month with Chris, and it's strange, even though I was trying to get away from that, he actually taught me that I shouldn't be going away from that because it's actually quite important. And then he introduced me to um, oh my goodness, like I've just had a brain freeze. Cliffs of Dover.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah, yeah. Eric Johnson.
Eric Johnson, and
Yeah.
then okay, so you do, oh yeah, you can do it like this, and this, and but I also before I went and saw him, I felt that I needed to just kind of train myself up for a bit, like so I went back and did a bit of in just a bit of research and a bit of just playing to some of like the neoclassical guys, like Vinnie Moore
Hmm.
especially. I love that guy. I mean, his music and Tony McAlpine. I thought, because I'd always thought, oh, those are some guys I can, I felt straight away like, hey, that's what I want to play like. But when I went to Chris and he says, no, what you can use that, but it's so important for you to just be yourself, but don't be afraid to use what you already know, and it's funny. It's it's funny, it's always until you sort of go out and sort of the external, and then somebody can point out the obvious.
Uh huh.
My goodness, it's yeah, it's incredible.
Man, what I love already just talking to you is that you are really versed in these guitar guys, like those shredder guys you were talking about, and yet at the
Yeah.
same time you're pulling out crazy stunts already, like sonic kind of experiments on your instrument. So that's super interesting. And then just to go to someone like Chris, um, who's affirming a lot of your ideas already.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, can we talk about the horn a little bit, the saxophone? Because you've mentioned it a couple of times. How you've brought that into your guitar playing. What sort of things has that informed in your guitar playing?
Oh, definitely. Well, definitely the way. Well, you can't exactly play a chord on a tenor,
Yeah.
obviously, but you have to play these, arpeggio like figures, and I kind of, I think it's maybe a part of me still wishes that I stayed on the horn, but I also know that I was coming this way as well. And it's kind of funny. There's a wonderful musician I was going to mention a bit later, but my mind was blown when I was doing a bit of research on him many years ago when I discovered his album. It's called "Ask the Ages" by Sonny Sharrock.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've heard of him, but
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
yeah. And when I found out that he was an ex-horn player, and
Yeah.
he also felt he'd even introduce himself to people, not as a guitarist, but as a horn
Oh,
player.
okay. Really?
And
Wow.
that just like that sort of reaffirmed things for me. Like, hey, I'm not alone in this. Like,
Hmm.
you can. But I also knew too that I had to commit. You can't serve two masters.
Okay. Sure. Let's jump ahead a little bit because I want to talk about your solo album, Half Ocean, Half Sky, and
Oh,
also
sure.
also the Scout album that came out. Now they both came out in 2018, and they both seem to me to stem out of your experience at uni studying music at UWS.
Yes, yes.
So let's talk about studying. So you say your partner encouraged you to study. When did the music degree start for you?
2011, did the Bachelor of Music
Yep,
over at Kingswood.
yep, yep.
And then after that, I did my honors. That was 2015. I have to think about that. Forgive
Yeah,
me as I'm looking up
yeah,
my
yeah.
certificate wall.
Nice, nice. What was your honors project?
It was actually the kind of the same thing that I'm looking at in my doctorate.
Okay.
Because the honors year was so, my goodness, was so packed in. It was a very, very tight. I think it was, if I remember, 8.5 months, 9 months perhaps, and there was still so much to be done. And so I um, I applied to do the doctorate, and I was awarded the Australian Postgraduate Award.
Yeah,
Um,
wonderful.
and so,
Congratulations, man. That's excellent.
yeah, and then that's how I got into or got started
Yeah,
really.
yeah,
And then not long after that, I sort of was, looking around at, you know, cultures, and there was some instruments around at the uni, especially the Chinese guzheng, the Chinese zither instrument,
yep.
and yeah, it kind of made me think about, you know, as a guitarist, how would I approach this? At first, I tried not to. Once again, trying to be naive, trying to keep things fresh, but then I also knew that there was parameters that I had to sort of had to respect, or there's a formula here. Instead of just going in blindly,
Hmm.
I could just really learn to use this tool properly if I just will learn or learn to how to handle this beautiful instrument. But yeah, the half ocean, half sky. That interestingly, that wasn't a project for my doctorate. It was just something that I was just sort of tinkering away at whenever I could, had a chance. It's funny, I'd always end up, it's probably the worst time to do any sort of work. I'd always end up going back to my office on a Friday night and yeah, and just work on that. It was supposed to be released in 2017, but I something came up. That's right. Oh yeah, my second son.
Okay. That will
And I
do
had a
it.
gig that night too. I was playing an experimental gig with the Guzheng and effects over at 107 Projects, and
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it was just incredible. Yeah, but I ended up doing the gig about a month later, and it was terrific. Yeah,
Excellent, excellent. So what'd you take from studying? So you're at, it was called UWS then, WSU now, if Western
yeah,
Sydney University now for our listeners beyond Sydney, I guess.
yeah.
So what'd you take? So I guess that access to the good thing, of course. What else did you get from the course?
Oh wow, yeah. My goodness, the lecturers there, in the actual the music degree were just they were just incredible. They were just guys like John Encarnacio, Bruce Crossman.
Yeah.
Um, was Bruce there when you were there?
Yeah,
Bruce Crossman?
yeah. So
Yeah,
I think you probably had a lot of the guys I did, and I think a lot of them are still there. So I
yeah.
graduated in 2009. So my honors year was
Oh, okay.
2008. But yeah, John
Yep.
was there, who's incredible,
Yeah.
just an amazing person. Thing I like about John, and when I talk to guys like you, he's fluent in Cheap Trick, but he'll also talk
Yep.
to you about Stravinsky. Like he's got this whole gamut and he just passionately engages in the whole thing. And he's
Yeah.
really knowledgeable on it. So he was super inspiring. But yeah, Bruce was there. Composition classes with him were like an experience every week.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh man.
Diana
Yeah.
Blom, Ian
Yep.
Stevenson, Kim Poole. I don't know if was Kim there when you were there.
No, but I met Kim afterwards,
Okay, yeah,
and
amazing.
yeah, I remember well, I only had him once for 4 hours. I know this well because it was a music performance lecture, and I remember just walking away from it. I actually recorded it. I remember walking away from it, just my mind was blown,
Yeah, yeah.
and it just kind of and so it sounds like you had Kim, and he's the head of music over at ANU now,
Oh, okay. Oh, that's
which
cool.
is really exciting.
Yeah,
And he was, I think he worked with Bruce as well.
yeah, yeah.
Or he supervised his DCA as well because
Okay.
Bruce Crossman is supervising my DCA
Oh, okay,
right
okay.
now.
Oh,
Yeah,
fantastic, fantastic. Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
that's cool. That's cool. So when I rocked up, pretty much everything started from 1900. We didn't go much earlier than that. We
yeah,
were just launching in 20th century chaos, which I loved.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
So I don't know what the course was like for you, like what the focus was.
I think it may have been I think the format may have been very, very, very close or very similar.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, just getting back to the guys like the lecturers there. Yeah, like John, another guy, Brendan Smiley, Ian Stevenson. My goodness, I
Yeah.
remember in sound technology, just the amount of he was very passionate, and
Yeah.
my goodness, I remember him opening my mind up to like stuff like Music Concrete
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Hector Berlioz, and just oh my goodness, Pierre, Boulez, and yeah, I still like I think that may have I think yeah, definitely that's being around that definitely it definitely fueled my my arsenal,
Yeah. Yeah.
if in that sense, even though it wasn't I wasn't using like the ideas directly, but it definitely was a big part of the musical DNA, and I think you can also um, I think it's pretty obvious, more obvious, the influences with the Scout album that I did with Dr. Holly Harrison, which I met when I was an undergrad there. She was, I think she just finished her DCA, I think, and I remember just asking her one day, or we actually played in a band for a very small time. It's kind of like almost like a snarky puppy type thing. We were
Okay.
called, it was the band was called Snip Snap Dragon.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So and she played flute through Ableton Live, trumpet. I was a guitarist. We had a bass player and a drummer,
Awesome.
and it was all just instrumental stuff, but wasn't wasn't as improvised, but more you know songs, conventional
Okay.
songs.
Okay. When I was finishing up my degree, we were hearing about Holly. So
Ah, yes, yes,
like people in my year were hearing about her, and yeah, it's a great composer and a percussionist and a wind player as well. And
yeah.
was she playing clarinet as well? Am I remembering?
Um, yeah, she does, but
Okay.
I haven't seen her play clarinet, but I know,
May
I know she plays it.
Okay. I sort of
Yeah,
remember hearing about that, although it was a while back. Wow. Hey, you mentioned the word improvisation. For most
yes,
guitar players, we think of improvisation as in, jamming over a blues progression or you've got your 16 bar solo. Can
yeah.
you give me a definition, perhaps on a project like Scout? What does improvisation mean in that kind of setting?
Ooh, in that setting, I'd say spontaneous and visceral.
Okay, yep. So by
Yeah, because
spontaneous, let's break it right down because a lot of, like I said, a lot of straight ahead guitar playing, we're looking at like a rock vehicle for someone to shred.
yeah,
So yeah, what do you mean by spontaneous? So I guess when you and Holly are jamming, Holly on drums and
yep.
you on guitar,
hmm
do you walk in with a game plan? Do you have chord progressions? Do you have ideas? What do you bring in?
Oh no, no. Um, well, we there's nothing spoken about, especially during performances. We try not to even talk before we get on stage if we're in the live setting. But with the Scout album we recorded, we set up mics the first day, just got line levels ready, and
Yep.
then we came back and tracked the entire next day. So the album was very much recorded in one entire day,
Okay.
one long day. And I think it was like the 16th or 17th of January, and man, I remember it was being so hot. It was like we took a break about 12:30, and I remember it was like 45 degrees.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not exaggerating. You know
Yeah,
what
Penrith, man. January,
know
yes.
what it's like.
Absolutely.
And I remember us going in back afterwards, and we were very flat. It was funny, and then it kind of took us a bit of time to sort of get some momentum again. But all that stuff, and on the album, on Scout, and even in our live performances, that is all straight up. There's no discussion. There's what key we're going to jump in or what we're going to do. It's funny, like more than anything, it's an emotional, it's catharsis, But I think that's the beauty of improvisation. You're kind of being sensitive musically, but on the other side of that, you're kind of being insensitive to make, a gesture or a point. And I think that's what's really exciting, about improvisation. More than anything, it seriously is it's a huge leap into the unknown, and I think it's so important to make these mistakes. Are they mistakes? I think Miles Davis said just you do it twice. It's jazz. There is no there is no wrong. I think and that's one of the things I love and appreciate about improvisation. Especially and when I think about improvisation, it reminds me of when I really got turned on to guitar improvisation. I think it was maybe in 2000. Yeah, but it was an album by Larry Coryell and French jazz guitarist Baroli Lagrène.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And the album called Spaces Revisited.
Yeah.
Yeah, just I still think of that. That for me, that's the benchmark. But it's funny when I first heard this album, I actually didn't see it. I didn't, I downloaded it off the internet. I think it was something like LimeWire or something, or FrostWire.
Okay.
So I had no idea that there was two guitarists on this album. I was just thinking, man, this Larry Coryell he's a beast. This is insane. And then, obviously a couple of years later, then I picked up the album. I was like, whoa, okay, this makes sense.
Nice, mate. The Scout album is so it is so alive and so exciting to hear the conversations going on between you guys from the drums and the guitar. And as a guitar player, you are pulling out so much sonic and harmonic territory. As you said earlier, I think I guess in a way you're exposed, being the only harmonic instrument, but I guess that gives you a lot of freedom as well. One thing I noticed is that you're the guy who has to make the melodic statements, and you seem to have a good knack on how long to state a phrase before letting it wash out and get ready for the next thing. That's an interesting juncture of form and being free with it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think I can't take all the credit there for that. I think it's one of the things I'm very I'm very blessed, to share the room with Holly, or that sort of improvisation space. I think she definitely makes, even though I have a couple of jobs. Perhaps maybe I'm playing the bass player, I'm playing the keys and the guitar, but she lays down the bedrock, and I think she's also being musically sensitive as well. Even though we look at each other in that sort of typical sense while we're playing, but we try not to force things as well. I don't know if you heard on the album. There's times where it just accelerates, then it pulls back.
Yeah.
That's all very natural. That was all, just off the cuff. That was in the moment, all in the moment. So I think when you work with someone that has that understanding, about that sensitivity, it's yeah. Oh man, it makes your job just a real joy, you know. And it's funny. I hope you don't mind me saying this. I gave the album Scout to one of my guitar heroes, Vernon Reid.
Yeah, wow.
Like I literally
Fantastic.
handed it to him
Okay.
after a gig at the Metro, and
Yeah.
it was funny. I didn't think I'd ever hear from him again, but and then on Christmas, no, it was Boxing Day. I get a message in Instagram, and he said that he loved the album, and
Oh, wow.
he loved Holly's playing, and
So good.
and then he said, look, I'll be back in 2 weeks, and I'm going to tell you what I think of the album.
Wow. No
Yeah,
way. So good.
yeah. So that was,
Fantastic.
man, like, geez, that was really exciting. And
So what happened in 2 weeks?
oh, from what I remember, yeah, he loved it. This is what happened actually. He played the LP on one of his radio shows. I think it's Maker Park Radio. Like just actually
Oh, man.
played one of the songs. I think it's still up there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so great.
on the website. But yeah, forgive me if I can't remember all the fine
Yeah,
details. But
sure.
I think that was very exciting because I've been a massive Venom Reid fan for many years. Especially too. I think it's because I think too there wasn't many in the '90s. There wasn't many like black guitarists that you could sort of like gravitate towards. Like
Yep.
we had black athletes and stuff, but I love sports, but I also loved music. And I remember him being, apart from just the blues guys,
Yeah.
I remember just being almost besotted, just hearing. I think it was the first thing I heard was the Time's Up album, and then I heard
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Vivid.
Yeah.
Yeah, just wow. And I just was a fan, forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Had the posters on my walls of Will Calhoun and
Yeah, awesome.
Doug Wimbish, and yeah, and it's good too. It's good in the sense that having those guys that you look up to, gives you something to aspire to, inspiration. But I tell you what, I must admit, I was terrified when I was getting called up, to come up and meet him after the gig because we kind of chatted very briefly on Instagram. He says, yeah, just come up.
Yeah, wow.
And, I remember just it was just incredible. There's just Doug Wimbish, Will Calhoun just taps me on the shoulder. I'm like, I'm pretty much, I'm melting.
That's so great. And how amazing that he loved it and got back to you and
Yeah,
really affirmed what you were doing.
It was so nice. It was so nice. That's I definitely won't forget that. And
Yeah.
both Holly and I, we were over the moon. It was something like that,
Yeah.
man. And I think that's if you want to, I think a big part of my sort of musical DNA. I don't know if you ever saw videos that sort of came out at the time. Like we're talking about the things. I think it was a video called Time Tunnel, and it just it documented about their rise or into popular culture, I guess. And
Yeah. Did that have the stuff about their Rolling Stone support?
yeah,
Yeah, I had that video. I had it on VHS. Yes.
yeah. So did I. Wow, wow. But yeah, just that with those guys, I think for me they were so important because they, like Sonny Sharrock, Vernon Reid, another guy I want to, who I really really love is Buckethead.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
The whole, I think his approach, as and I know he's got the arsenal, he's got the goods, but he's also, just that whole the enigma behind it.
Mm-hmm.
I just think I think he's just prolific. In particular, the one of his albums I still listen to every now and again. It's the Pike's Pike 78.
Okay.
Like 4 untitled tracks on it. If you haven't heard it, well, yeah, I do recommend it. Pike 78
Awesome,
from
man.
Ed. Yeah,
I'll check that
that's
out. I know some of his stuff, but yeah, cool.
he's got there's so many like EPs but I love his approach to improvisation. I think it's I think it's honest, it's raw. Um, and look, some people may find it confronting, some people might not dig it, but that's totally good. That's necessary, I think that's important, at least we're keeping things honest and as an artist, I think that's not to sound like a bit of a cliche or anything, but it's crucial,
Oh, of
you know,
course, yeah.
to grow.
Yeah.
I think people see through that as well. It's not contrived or anything.
When you're performing, because after Scout was released, you guys were doing some gigs and traveling around. How much of the album then, just jumping back, I guess, to that idea that the album's freely composed, when you're performing live now, are you trying to recreate those jams, or are you just kicking off totally new material?
Every performance is it's not the same. We never revisit any idea.
Okay.
It's all fresh. It's all fresh. We played our last gig was a while ago now. It was actually funny that we even got asked to do this. It was actually a wedding in the Blue
Wow.
Mountains,
Wow.
and we were really surprised that the bride was so adamant. Like, yeah, we've got to get those guys, and
That's the best.
apparently the bride and the groom, or before they were married, they saw Holly and I playing at a venue in Katoomba. I wish I could remember the name. Forgive me. And it was an old church.
Uh-huh.
And I remember them. It was really nice, that they asked us. And the reason why I bring this up is because I remember doing the wedding gig. It was fantastic. It was all, it was just a fresh improvisation. And I remember a few people coming up afterwards asking, "Wow, that was really amazing. Like, have you guys played those songs before, or is this a set that you guys normally play?" And I said, "No, no, this is we just came up with this stuff, tonight, right now. You were there."
That's
And
so
I think
good.
it kind of frightened them a bit, but um, but yeah, it was exciting, and it still is. It still is. I miss it. I miss it.
So where's that project up to at the moment then? Obviously, we're in
Well,
semi-lockdown with COVID and all that as we
yeah, yeah.
speak. But
We were planning to do a follow-up this year, but obviously with the COVID-19 pandemic, and it just sort of threw things off course.
sure.
We had an idea, and we're still talking about it. There's a potential of doing like a duets type sort of situation where we sort of introduce different, just different musicians, just to see what happens,
Yeah,
you
cool.
know. But hopefully that happens. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah,
But because oh my goodness, with just the current climate and what's happening, and yeah, it's obviously. But we'll get there though.
sure, sure. What kind of rig do you lug?
I've got a very basic setup. I try and keep it as really minimal as possible. Just I have a Line 6 M9.
Yep.
That's for a lot of the time-based effects.
Yeah, great,
Excuse
great.
me. I've got a DD 500.
Yeah.
Although I haven't been playing that a lot, I've been messing about with my DD 20, which I think is amazing still,
Yeah,
even
they're
though
cool. Yep.
it's much older. I don't know. There's something just appealing. I don't know. Um, I have the Boss for the crunch, Boss Adaptive Distortion.
Okay. Yep.
But on that day, on the recording, I definitely, yeah, I was running through an AC30, and I normally um, run through an AC30 with these effects as well live.
Okay. Yeah.
Although I did have on the album on Scout, I did use a Digitech GNX9
Okay.
for some of the clean guitar stuff you'll hear towards the end of the album.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. So I mean, that's a few effects, but they're all pretty powerful. You can pull a lot of stuff out of those, especially those boss delays.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Oh, there is one pedal. Forgive me, Matt. Um, my goodness, I've had this pedal. It's funny. I've had this pedal. It's been it's been with me since 1994. The Digitech Whammy,
oh
and
yeah,
it
yeah,
is that thing is just it's. I've never had a problem with it.
yeah.
Never. Like I've had gear die or mid gig or whatever. And this thing just keeps on going, and I just can't part with this thing. It's incredible. With the octaves and you
Yeah.
can detuning sounds. It's brilliant. And when you turn it counterclockwise or clockwise, whatever, especially that version, you can make bagpipe type sounds
Wow.
with a little bit of crunch.
What?
Yeah, which is in
Killer.
between the note, the microtones or something.
Yeah, yeah. Far out. Man, I would love to hear that. Next record.
Yes, absolutely.
What guitar are you playing?
Um, Today, I've got the main guitar is the Billy Corgan Fender Strat.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
The other one I was used on the album on Scout was a 1993 Les Paul Gibson
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Cool.
Standard.
Yep.
I love that thing. I used to use that guitar in Junto
Okay.
for open tuning stuff. I used to have this tuning DAD ADD,
Oh
kind of
yeah.
like
Nice.
almost like a mandolin thing and a mandolin tuning. But yeah, and it's just nice. I really miss playing that guitar, but it's um yeah. Well, Les Pauls. My goodness, they're very expressive. I mean, it's this might sound like a weird comment, but I don't know. I find that when I play the Les Paul, um, I find I play differently, more aggressively.
Okay.
Whereas when I play the Strat, I'm being a bit more tender and trying not to,
Okay.
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
It's really funny. I have a friend uh, who's kind of the other way. He goes, no, it should be the other way. He says, oh, you can't help these things.
Oh, man, that's the
But
fun of it. Hey, the expression
oh,
coming out
oh
differently
man,
on
so much.
different parts. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've only just started um, a, a PRS. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
For the viewers at home listening to the podcast, it's what is it? It's PRS. It's got a Floyd on there. What model?
It's PRS custom Floyd Rose 24 fret.
Wow, rock and roll,
Yeah.
man. That's awesome.
It's really nice. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting. Yeah. No one can see it.
They're all imagining it now.
Yeah, that is my number one guitar right now because
Okay.
obviously it's I can pull out. I've got the sensitivity. I've also got the you know the power
Rocking, man. That's
in there as
nice.
well. And yeah, and the Floyd Rose. My goodness, I kind of for many years I used to. I think maybe because I was always in a bit of a hurry, I just had no patience for restringing.
Okay.
Was
Yeah.
just a simple guy, in the back of a Strat. But
Yeah.
I totally understand now. You know if you want to use the tool, you've really got to respect and learn everything about it or as much as you can to maintain it because right then and there, that's when you really you can really speak, with the tool, with the guitar. Just so exciting, I'm still learning.
Yeah,
It's never
yeah,
ending.
yeah. I think that's the best attitude. Um, hey, you mentioned your doctorate, so that commenced in 2016. You said you
Yes.
won the, what's it called again?
Australian Postgraduate
Ah,
Award.
that's it.
The,
Which is essentially,
yeah.
is it still like a 3-year scholarship?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
excellent. Tell me about
Yeah.
that. What's the focus there? You said it was similar to your honors project.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was. It's yeah. It was the. I'm looking at. I should mention the title again. Should I?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Far
Re-
away.
the title of the thesis is reinventing minimalism, assimilating repetitive structures, oceanic rhythm and harmony with an electric guitar-driven musical voice.
Awesome.
So,
What's your thesis statement? Because does everyone ask you? Is this a common thing when someone says, "Yeah, I'm doing a doctorate"? Everyone says, "What are you doing?" And you got to explain
oh yeah,
this massive idea
oh yeah, yeah.
in
It's
two
funny
sentences.
when I mention the, I think for the first couple of years I was extremely almost embarrassed, because it's a huge title, but also
The best
I think
ones
it's
are.
you find it as a postgrad, always find it hard to talk about yourself because you don't want to, you know, you know, you just don't want to, I guess, bore people. But I think I've learned now because I'm towards the end of it now
Yep.
that it's oh man, it's so important, that you don't be embarrassed to, about your work or your research or anything that that you're passionate about. I think it's important to share. And
Yep.
but I've always, a few people, I'd get asked these questions, and it's funny. Um, so I was coming at it from where I was looking at more mainly my where does my musical voice come from, and the more that we unpacked it, I've obviously had my beginnings of pop music, rock music, guys like Kirk Pengelly, The Edge, that sort of informed my, guitar right at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But then I sort of went into, well, as I was talking about being a tenor saxophone player, and then sort of I discovered not only that informed me, but just going to church and stuff when I was very young. Um, my mum was a Methodist, and my dad was Catholic. So I don't know if you've ever been to like almost like the Methodist or Pentecostal church. Some of those the music, especially it was just very raw, very powerful.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Yep.
apart from the long ceremonies, like but
Okay.
um, yeah, and I could sort of see. I was trying to see where I was coming from, but I also knew that a part of me, um, which thank goodness to Western Sydney University, where I was open, my mind was opened up to composers like Terry Riley, Philip Glass,
Yeah, yeah.
Steve Reich, and it kind of made me think about what's get excited about music. Why am I here today? And also most importantly about why do I feel the need or compelled to play the guitar? You I did a few years ago. I did a paper presented a paper at Melbourne Conservatorium, and it was about guitar cultures and how, for instance, the America and how it came through into the Pacific, into Australia. It was really interesting. My paper was on how Hawaiian music or the ukulele sort of came, into Australia and into how it was introduced, through the Portuguese sailors,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Wow.
and obviously not long after that, the steel guitar by Joseph Kikuku. I think it was interesting that I had to, well, getting the opportunity to do research and being invited to that conference, it kind of made things, not only more serious, but also it answered a lot of questions that I had, about my practice. Why was I playing this way, or why did I choose to play this way? And I think sort of getting that opportunity to present, um, that paper, it definitely helped, with work, with what I'm trying to say musically, as well, and not just in the exegesis.
Hey, do you think there's much research into guitar practice?
Um,
Especially electric guitar, perhaps, if I can put that caveat on.
yeah, yeah. I think there could be more. I'm trying to think. One of the first papers I remember coming across was when I first started my PhD was Zane Banks.
Oh,
I don't know if
yeah.
you've ever
Y-
I'm sure you've heard of him. He's a terrific guitar
yeah,
terrific
amazing.
guitar player, amazing music,
We're
and
trying to tee up a time to talk, actually.
oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you ever get a chance, you should definitely check out his doctorate because there's lots of stuff in there.
When we've been emailing back and forth, one of the things I asked is, could you come up with a list of some must listen to improvisers or avant-garde musicians? Now, you've already mentioned a bunch of fantastic names for us to follow up on, like the Sonny Sharrock stuff.
Oh, yes,
Um,
yes.
Obviously, the Vernon Reid stuff, In and Out of Living Colour. Are there any other essential names for
Oh,
avant-garde
yes.
guitar
I must.
you
I
reckon we should
must.
think of?
Oh, I'm glad you asked this question. Guys that I think about almost every day, even when I pick up a guitar for that matter. I try and think, oh, how would John McLaughlin do it, or how would Jimmy Herring
Uh-huh.
do it? You know, I listen to those guys and quite a lot, and try and you know almost mimic them in a way, but also a part of me also doesn't want to just be a carbon copy.
Yeah.
But I think that's how you learn how to to speak the language. You know,
So
like I was.
what do you take from those guys? Say McLaughlin, what do you take from him without wanting to just produce a facsimile? What's the vibe you collect?
Oh man, the thing that I've always loved about John McLaughlin, and I didn't realize this until, geez, afterwards, and I discovered a bit more as I was doing my research, because I do mention John McLaughlin in my doctorate as well. Is definitely his approach to um, improvisation. I don't know if you've ever seen his treatise, that this is how I sort of do it. Those
Yes.
videos, or
Yeah.
yeah, I remember spending, oh goodness, many months just going through those on my own, and there's a real wonderful sort of discipline about it. It's almost like you know, just simple things like simple concepts like intervals, for instance. If we just think about that, how oh look, yeah, perfect fourth, major six.
Yeah.
It's funny, as much as we want things to be organic and to flow. I think you really need to have the the knowledge. You got to have that theory, and that's just one of the things I've loved about John McLaughlin for a long time, and obviously his openness to culture, especially North Indian classical music,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I remember him introducing me to, not personally, but this wonderful electric mandolin player, Upalapu Srinivas.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of him. He played in
No.
Shark. He's passed away now, but if you've ever heard this guy, he was like a child prodigy. Um, just him being able to open up and give some of these guys that normally wouldn't even get a chance. I think that's wonderful. But also, if another thing that I do love about him is that amazing band he had in the '70s, Mahavishnu Orchestra. My goodness, like to me, that's still for me personally, that's like the benchmark. Like especially the amazing musicians that he surrounded himself with. Like for instance, another guy that I absolutely love, and I'd put one of his albums, Billy Cobham, in my top avant-garde guitar albums, even though it's not known spectrum as a guitar album. It's a drum album, but my goodness.
Yeah. Is that McLaughlin on that record as well?
No, I think that was, forgive me, maybe John Abercrombie.
Oh, okay, yep.
Yeah, and the other Billy Cobham album, which has Tommy Bolin.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, what was it called?
I know they did a record. I just can't remember the name either.
Total Eclipse.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah. Gotcha. Yep.
Have you heard that album?
Yes, yeah.
Oh my goodness, just the opening track alone is just seriously. That's like seriously transcendent. My goodness.
Yeah.
Another guy I love, and I tried to introduce some students to the amazing work of this guy, Australian musician Oren Ambachi.
Oh yes, yep.
Yeah, and he has a wonderful album called Hubris, which came out in 2016. I think what he's doing is exciting. It's important. Another person I absolutely love, Frank Zappa, in particular the Zoot Allures album.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, and another guy that I'm very, very fond of, Jeff Beck. I was lucky enough to see him in concert once, and I remember that's almost, that was pretty, that was very special. I remember getting home very late that night, and just, it was really weird. I know this sounds bizarre, but I swear I think I started to play like him.
Yeah.
Just because I just seen him, I saw him like 2 hours or something before.
Yeah,
I said, I need to get home and practice.
Yeah, wow. Unreal. Any particular era, Jeff Beck, that you're into?
Definitely. If I had to, it's kind of hard. Geez, I love. Obviously, the obvious one would be the Blow by Blow.
Yeah.
1975, I think it was, and then, but the one I really love, and I know, man, from start to finish, is Jeff Beck's Guitar Shop.
Yes. Yeah. That was my first Jeff Beck record, and then I kind of worked backwards from there.
Yeah. I think a lot of people kind of did that too. Yeah, but isn't that a terrific album?
Yes.
Jeez.
Yeah.
My goodness, where were you?
That's the one.
Oh, goosebumps. I'm still getting goosebumps.
Yeah. Have you heard his Beatles stuff? The live.
Yeah, it's terrific. It's terrific. Jeez. Man, how's that guy for facility, and he's saying, I remember there was a quote or something, what's it like to be, was it best guitarist in the world? And I remember him sort of saying, don't ask me, go and ask John McLaughlin. But no, kind of reminds me of another one, of another guy, somebody asked Eric Clapton, so what's it like being the best guitarist? And he goes, don't ask me, go and ask Prince.
Okay.
Oh, speaking of guitars, I love that's another guy. Prince. My goodness. I think his approach. There's I haven't done a great deal of research. Or read. Biographies or on Prince, but I think his approach to guitars has always been. I've always been interested in that, I think it's really dynamic. In particular, there's There's an album of his. I think even when he wasn't even called Prince, it was just the symbol.
Oh,
I think
okay.
it was called the Gold Experience, and it's really funny. It's when I say really funny, it was more. It was kind of like a rock album. Like it had, amazing big drums, big guitars. Obviously, apart from and it also had the conventional sort of pop songs and whatnot. But I recommend that album from start to finish. Jeez, that's a journey.
Yeah,
There's
cool.
so much to be to take in.
Nice. I'm writing down all these names. I'm gonna make the Joseph Tabua guitarist to check out list. This is cool. This is great.
Brilliant.
I remember hearing "Let's Go Crazy" when I think just before I learnt guitar or when I was starting, and
Yeah,
that was when I realized, oh, okay, that's what a guitar solo is. Okay, cool. He's moving his fingers. It's making these notes. Well, it's him and Ace Frehley about the same time, but
wow.
that cadenza at the end of that tune is like, oh, okay, cool. And then me working backwards, okay, kind of Hendrixy as well. I notice for the listeners, we're talking over Skype, and I can see Hendrix and Prince behind you on your wall in your
That's
music
right.
room
That's
there.
right.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Prince is playing the cymbal guitar,
Yes, yes.
which, if nothing else, has very good upper fret access with all those. That's
You
crazy.
know, it's funny. About 2 weeks ago, I was in uh, Pete's Music Market
Oh
in
yeah,
Newtown,
Newtown. Yeah, yep.
and it's so funny. I just went in there. I was, just to see if he had. I was actually looking for a Fender Telecaster, and then yeah, so I'm looking there. He was pretty busy, so I didn't want to bother him too much. He's obviously looking after the customers. And then as I'm looking up, I see this white cloud, and
No
this white
way.
cloud was pretty much was the Prince Prince guitar,
Wow.
and I had the strangest reaction. I just looked up at it, and I had to leave. It was just because I'd probably take the thing home. I'd buy it.
You could pull that off.
Oh, it's funny.
That's cool, man. And what, you had it up high, so you had to look up and see the cloud up high. That's
Yeah, oh,
that's
see, it's
beautiful.
funny. Yeah, because obviously he had it hanging from the ceiling because he's got a couple of guitars from the ceiling there.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't. Yeah, that's funny. It was the cloud guitar.
So you didn't find a Telecaster?
Pardon?
You didn't find a Telly?
No, no.
No.
I'm looking for one in particular. The Japanese. Well, I'm looking for a Japanese Fender Tele.
Uh-huh.
And I know he gets a lot of Pete gets a lot of nice quality Japanese tellies in there every now and again.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, Pete's, man. How nice that a shop like that's still going as well in
Oh,
this day.
it's amazing. I think it's that's one of the things I miss about and I'm sure you feel the same way about the human connection.
Mm.
Walking into a music shop, and I'm pretty lucky. We've got where I live. I've got like downtown music just around the corner, which
Ah,
is
okay.
and I feel so blessed. I can literally walk down the street and
Nice.
and get things what I need. But I'm also a little bit spoilt because of just with time. I'm finding myself just even ordering strings and jazz threes on eBay
Yep.
because it's just convenient.
Yeah, sure.
I miss that whole definitely miss that whole that vibe. Yeah, it was a culture. When you'd walk in and like, hey, have you
Yep.
heard this? Or you want to
Yeah.
try this pedal out?
Yep.
Oh man, those were the days.
Yeah. Man, I remember reading and buying stuff from Pete's when he was putting ads in the Trading Post, which is the old.
Oh yes,
I
I
don't.
remember the trading
You do,
post.
yeah,
Wow.
cool. And yeah, every Thursday. So, what's Pete got? Nice. Hey, Joseph, it's been so fun talking. We could pretty much go through every music shop in Sydney. But Pete's in downtown is still going, so that's good. But yeah, mate, thank you so much for your time. It's been so fun talking about your career and all these influences and your academic work. I find it all thoroughly fascinating. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me tonight.
Oh, Matt, it's been a pleasure and a privilege. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, there you go. My conversation with Joseph Tabua. Man, such a humble and thoughtful musician and a fantastic musician. So it was really great to have him on the show. Please check his stuff out. And also a reminder, we've got a Spotify playlist and links to some of Chris Brooks' teaching resources in our episode notes as well. All right, thank you so much for joining us here on the Guitar Speak podcast. My name's Matt Wakeling. I'll catch you next time. Bye now.